5 times, 5 times we have tried. We have tried to turn on the systems for checks of stuff coming from the EU into the UK. Bear in mind, the ones from obviously the UK going to the EU have been active for what, 3 years at this point? So if the EU can do it, why then, for the life, or well, it's not even the EU that's doing it, it's the individual countries that are doing it. If France, the Netherlands, and Belgium can do it, or in this case, particularly France, because Calais is certainly the busiest port of entry for UK goods. If France can do it, why then can we not do it? And this comes back to everything that we have been talking about for years. The Brexiteers drunk their own Kool-Aid and had been drinking it for years with this simple idea that somehow, some way, Britain was really the secret trading, nation that was just really being held back by the EU. That it was, things could be just so much better, but we are being, quote, chained by the EU. And you would see that in a lot of literature that the UKIP and the Eurosceptics would put out of, like, there would be sort of a picture of Europe and chains would be thrown around sort of the UK, sort of pulling it in to sort of Europe. And this was what was that the Kool-Aid that they drank, that somehow once we are sort of free from the evil clutches of the EU, everything will be, fine and dandy. And oh no. Oh no. Because back when I said they were going to put these checks in, I was like, yeah, I'm very skeptical. I am incredibly skeptical that this is going to happen. Why was I saying I was going to be incredibly skeptical? Purely for the fact that, well, nothing has changed. All the other times, the exact same reasons for cancelling these checks and stopping the implementation was exactly the same as last time. So here we are now with 5 times going into a 6th time. A 6th time. How on earth have we managed to get to this? The number of times, it is a sheer, absolute embarrassment. And yet you have had businesses, port authorities constantly saying, this system isn't ready. When you need more time, guys, to get this ready. Otherwise, it's going to be an absolute disaster. It's going to be a complete, you're going to have all these delays. You're going to have perishable goods that end up going bad. The infrastructure is not there. The system is not ready. You don't even have enough people to be able to perform these checks. You don't even have enough vets to be able to do this. This was warned about. I don't know how many times and brought up time and time and time again at the referendum in 2016, since then, all the way up to 2020, even up to now, of saying, hey guys, if you do Brexit, this thing will happen. So when this thing happens, how are you guys going to make sure that it doesn't cause delays or potentially, catch fire all of a sudden? Maybe it's a good idea to have a fire extinguisher there just in case, But of course, the Brexiteers are like, don't worry about it. We don't need fire extinguishers there because we're going to use unflammable this magical new material that we are going to sort of create. Okay, where is it? How are you going to create this? Don't worry, it's on its way. Unflammable is on its way. We're going to make it any day now. And that's essentially what has happened here. Again, these checks are going to cause huge problems for UK goods flowing in from Europe, mostly from Calais, because that's sort of the busiest point of entry. Yes, you have things like ports in sort of Belgium and the Netherlands also, but Calais mainly. It's the main point of entry. It's the same for Dover as well. Dover is the main point of entry for most sort of UK goods. Why? Because it's the shortest crossing point, hence why it is sort of the most port used. And you cannot just start saying, well, actually, we need to sort of direct you to other ports, because those other ports are not going to be able to take on the capacity of these things. One of the things that has been highlighted is the number of times checks have been implemented. So Portsmouth, for example, had about 12 checks in 1 year. Dover had over 12,000. That just goes to show you the difference in volume that is coming through these ports. And that is the very same time period, by the way. So you need these checks. Everyone says you need these checks. I have talked about before and done an entire video about the fact that, look, if a chicken gets imported, you could have a mass bird flu outbreak, which could decimate the UK poultry industry. You could have something very similar happen for swine flu, which could decimate the pork markets. And Liz Truss would, be out there wailing and gnashing her teeth. Why did they not protect the pork markets? But this is the very real thing that you have. And there's all sort of security concerns. There's all still problems about the mass smuggling issues. Of course, remember, you are still not legally obligated. If you get, tagged to go to one of these checking points, you are not legally obligated to go to one of these checking points. All of this is a nightmare, absolute nightmare. And we are here for the sixth time. The sixth time. And I cannot believe that once again, we are 2 weeks away from these checks being implemented. And once again, at like the final hour, not going to be implemented. And it gets even better. Because how did we find out about this? Because this is the interesting point. How did we find out about this? Well, turns out these documents were leaked from someone in Defra to the Financial Times, with specifically Defra saying, first of all, we ain't going to communicate. In fact, the exact quote from Defra is, let me find it. Here it is. So, first of all, they also said this plan should not be shared with businesses. That was the first one. So remember, this whole thing is going to affect businesses, and Defra is saying we're not going to tell businesses. Good. Jolly good plan there, guys. Jolly good plans. I'm sure businesses are not going to throw a fit about this. Oh, and trust me, they are throwing a fit about this. They're annoyed once again at the government cancelling these checks. But again, it gets even better, because the second thing they wanted was that they did not want this disclosed to the media, because they wanted to avoid negative news stories. So, too late on that one. The boat sailed on that, but it ain't getting checked. Yeah, this is just going to be, unfortunately, a continuing problem. And sooner or later, you've got to implement them. And the fun thing is, this just becomes an even more bigger argument against Brexit, because you're getting to the point now where you are cancelling so many of these implementation of these checks, where the question should now be asked, well, if we are constantly having to, not implement these checks because it's going to cause all this extra cost, these extra delays, why then did we leave the customs union? Why then did we leave the single market? And then why then did we leave the EU? So, hey, who knows? Who indeed knows? But as always, maybe we'll get to a seventh time. Maybe we'll get to October, and maybe we'll have had a general election. Maybe it will be Labour's turn to sort of cancel these checks. Who knows? It'll be very interesting to see how the Conservatives will end up spinning this, because, oh boy, are they going to try spinning this in some way, shape, or form. But as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.